What I'm going to do now is print out my drawings. I'm going to start with my presentation plans. And I have a layout that shows my floor plan at 1/4 inch. And then if I switch over to my site plan, this has a layout and my site plan here is at 3/32. I know from experience that I may have to adjust the plot settings because I'm going to make the lines a certain thickness. And for example, the magenta line, if I make it really thick, it'll come in nice here on my site plan. But what about the red line? Let me go back to the floor plan. That represents my wall thickness, and I really want that to pop. However, in my site plan, if I keep the red lines at the same line weight, they actually might come in a little too strong. Here's the plan. I'm going to start first with the floor plan, and I'm going to print this out, but I'm going to check my plot settings. As I've done in the past, Control P for printing. When I set up the page for this layout, I put in the AutoCAD PDF as the printer. I set it to ANSI full bleed 17 by 11. So everything was already set up. What I'd like to do is take a look at the plot style table I'm using, which is monochrome. I'm simply going to click on edit and just look at the colors. And in this case, color number 1, it's set to a line weight of 0.6 millimeters. Color number 2, that's for my plan information. That's half of the thickness. Color number 3 is green. I don't think I'm using it in this print. Color number 4, that is my annotations layer. So all of my annotations are going to come in at a 0.2 thickness. Color 5, all of you will have a color 5, and that's for your furniture. And I have that printing at a very thin line weight because I don't want the furniture to really take a lot of attention. This is about the floor plan and the layout of it. That's what's important. Color number 6, which I don't think I'm using here. And that also, I'm realizing, is set to a thickness of 0.6. So I will have to change that at some point. Color number 8, which I believe I'm using for my halftone settings, I have that set to a very thin line weight and a screening of 25. So it's going to come in nice and light. I just wanted to see what my settings were here. And I'm going to go ahead and just save and close. And I'll go ahead and preview. And when I preview, everything is really popping out in a nice way. My walls, I've pocheted. I've used the solid hatch. So they're filling in very nice. And then the thickness of the walls also coming in nice and heavy, which is what I want. And then the difference between the walls and the doors, as well as the fixtures, they're half the thickness. So it's really very representative of what I want. It doesn't mean you have to have the same settings, but I'm just showing you what direction you should be going with your printing. If I look at the furniture and the tile, they're both set to a 0.1 millimeter thickness, but because I have the tile set to halftone, it's coming in much lighter. As I zoom out, everything looks good. My dimensions also coming in at a decent line weight. I think this is a good setting. I'll go ahead and close out. I'll go ahead and print this. And when I print it, I'm going to place it into my folder where I have my files. And in here, you'll notice it has my first initial last name. The file name is presentation plans, and the tab is floor plan. I'm not going to change anything. And this is why I changed the layout name so that it would appear here in my title. So I'll go ahead and save that. Tells me that there were no printing errors. I'll close that window. And now I'm going to Adobe Acrobat, which I have, and I'm going to close this bookmark out. I take a look at the drawing and print it out just like I wanted it to. You look in here and it looks like maybe the line weight's a little bit different, but don't be fooled. Go ahead and zoom in a bit, pan down, and you'll see that it's the same line weight, but I really had to zoom in to see that. Now I'm going to zoom out. Oh, and by the way, I am noticing an error. You can see that the hatching is going through here. I would need to fix that in the drawing, and that's all right. I can make the change, and then I can print this again and replace the existing file. These things will happen, and that's all right. Let me go ahead and fit to one page. That's my floor plan. And then this is the file that will be in your Google Drive, and you'll also be uploading this onto the Miro board on the cell. I'll minimize that, and then I'll come back to the drawing, and now I'm going to print the site plan. Simply switched it over, and I'm going to type Control P. Everything is set. I was looking at the monochrome plot style table, and I know that my red and my magenta are set to the same line weight. And that's all right. I just want to do a preview on this. I like the line weight that I have for the property line, coming in nice and heavy, but the line weight now for my building, now it's coming in a little too heavy, a little too thick, and it has nothing to do with the line weight. It has everything to do with the scale of my drawing. And if I zoom in here, you can see how it's just starting to get just a little too heavy, and perhaps we use the term in architecture, just a little muddy. What I need to do is actually change that line weight. I'm going to right click and exit. And I'm going to take this monochrome table. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit. Before I make any changes, I would like to save this as a different plot style table. So I know that monochrome works for 1/4 inch scale, but anything smaller, I want a different table so I can edit the line weights. So I'm going to click on Save As. And then from here, I'll go ahead and rename it, but I'm going to keep it at monochrome. I'm just going to click right in here. And I'll simply type in, for lack of a better name right now, I'll just indicate small size, or rather small scale. I'll go ahead and click Save. Now I am going to edit that plot style table. Color number 6 was coming in with the line weight of 0.6 millimeters. I can leave that, and if I wanted to, I can increase it. But this is good for me. It's color number 1 that was coming in just a little too heavy. And color 1 was set to 0.6. Maybe I need to knock this down to half of that, which would be 0.3. But I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to set it to 0.4. I also know that my fixtures were on a layer, and that layer was yellow. So I'm going to take color number 2, and that's yellow, and I'm going to set it to half of what I had color 1 set to. So if color 1 is set to 0.4, color 2, I'll try 0.2. That's all I'm going to do right now because I want to take this just step by step. So I will go ahead and save and close. And I'm going to preview. But before I hit preview, I realize that it still has the monochrome plot style table. So let me go ahead and click on that and select monochrome small scale. And then I'll preview that. Notice the difference. It's not as muddy, is the word that I use here, but it's still coming in a little too thick for me. Now, the furniture and the hatch pattern, they're okay. I don't think I need to change anything, but I believe I still need to bring the values down for the color red and color yellow. So I'm going to right click, exit. I'm going to click on edit the plot style table, and color number 1. Now I'm going to bring that down to 0.3. Color number 2, I'm going to bring that down to 0.15. And now color number 5, that's at 0.1. That's working out just fine. Oh, and I didn't realize I had it screened to 50%. Color number 6, I'm tempted to test something here. Instead of 0.6, I'd like to increase that just a little bit more, maybe 0.7. I just want to see what'll happen. And I highly encourage you to just try all of the different line weights, experiment with them, see what's going to work best. I'll go ahead and save and close, and then preview again. So I increased the line weight on the property line. I like that. Coming in here, notice how now, even as I zoom closer, the lines are not touching each other, whereas before they were. And this is decent for me. And I know that I'm zoomed in pretty close, but as I zoom out, I look at the difference between the heavier lines versus the lighter lines. And this is looking okay. Now, my trees, I may want those to come in just a little bit heavier, maybe. So right click, exit. My trees are on a layer. That layer is green. So I'm going to click on my plot style edit, color number 3. That's coming in at 0.2. Maybe it's a matter of moving that up to a 0.3. I'm being particular now, and I'm going to look at color number 1. And color number 1 is 0.3. Maybe I want to reduce that to a 0.25. And then color number 2, maybe I want to bring that down even more to say 0.13. And then I'll save and close. And this is part of the process. What I'm showing you right here, this is something that we do a lot of, is trying out different settings to see what will work. So I'll go ahead and save and close. And then I'll give that a preview. And I think I like this better than what I had before. The settings here are fine. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit more in this area. Pan over. I'm pleased with the results here. I'm good with the settings here. I could continue to go back and forth and make modifications, but this is going to work just fine. Now that I'm all set with that, I can go ahead and simply right click and plot. And from here, again, the file name is there, and then the name of the layout. I'm all set. I'll go ahead and save. This is the file. Let me close the bookmarks. This is what it looks like when it's printed. Let me go ahead and zoom it to 100%, just so we can compare both of the views here at the same scale. So that's at 100. I take this floor plan, I'll set that to 100 as well. And let me just pan it right about there. So notice, it looks like I never changed any of the plot styles, but I did. And that's the goal that we're trying to achieve here, is to make these read in a very nice way. Floor plan reads very well here, just like it does in this drawing, and they're set to different scales. If you needed to, you can even make a third plot style table. Make as many as you need to fulfill the requirements that you want on your drawings. That's the site plan and also the floor plan. Something I do want to point out also is that I did not make a roof plan here. 2 reasons. Number 1, the roof plan is not going to tell me the story of what's inside of my building. And number 2, I wanted to put the floor plan here because I wanted you to learn how to use external references, and also what we're doing right now, how to print out the plan at different scales using different plot style tables. That was my goal. I'm now going to my elevations and section. I'll go ahead and print this out. Control P. And now I need to ask myself, do I use monochrome or do I use monochrome small scale? I'll start with the monochrome that it's set to. All the other settings are correct. I'll give it a preview. Notice how heavy the line weights are here. And as I look at it right away, there's something telling me that that's just maybe a little too strong. I'm going to right click, exit. I'm going to come over here, select my monochrome small scale, because my elevations are at 3/32, just like my site plan. So I'll click on that plot style table, and then I'll preview. Reads a little better. And if you wanted to, you could certainly make changes. By the way, my elevations are not 100% complete. My goal here is to show you how to start your elevations, how to put in the doors, put in the windows, put in a representation of the materials that you're using, setting up the sheets, and then being able to print them out. Oh, and of course, dropping in some entourage to help with the scale and proportion of the drawing. I'm not showing you a completed set of couple of elevations here. I'm simply walking you through the process right now of printing this out. I'm looking at the west elevation and it is missing some information. Keep that in mind. There's more I can do to it. Let me just zoom in here and double check it. All right. There's a part of me that's just a little bothered by the thickness of the lines here is all, but it should print out okay. And again, like I said, if I wanted to, I can go ahead, right click, exit. I look at the lines, they are a magenta color. And I'm realizing now that magenta, I actually kicked up that value. Why don't I do this? Instead of talking about it, let me go ahead and click on this. And I'll go ahead and do a save as. And I'm going to refer to this one as small scale elevations. Let me type that in correctly. Now I could change the existing plot style table, but it's working well for my site plan. And maybe I'm going to print additional site plans at the same scale. So this one here, monochrome small scale elevations, I'll click save. Now I'll address color number 6. And notice color number 6 is set to 0.7. So that's pretty strong. My next color that I use is color number 1, and that's set at 0.25. So there's a big difference, and I don't want that big difference. I'll pick color number 6, bring that down. In my case now, maybe 0.45. And I'm going to study this for a moment. I know that the yellow line is going to be representing a light line weight. So yellow is set to 0.13. Then red is my next line weight that's higher value. That's set at 0.25. And maybe there's too big of a discrepancy. I don't know, but we'll see. And then color number 6 is next. And I have that now at 0.45. So I'll try this one now. I'll click save and close, and then preview. And it's looking better, but I think I still want to change that line weight a bit more. So I'm going to right click, exit, go back. Oh, I realize now what happened. I did not pick my small scale elevations. My mistake. So now I set that plot style table and I preview. And I zoom in, and that's a lot better. I may even still change that thickness a little bit more. But for now, I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to show you one little trick that I can do here, because I'm looking at this and I really want my ground to come in just a little heavier. I'm going to do something. I'm going to use the polyline command. But I like what I see here. I'm going to go ahead, right click, exit. I'm going to apply this to the layout, and then I'm going to cancel. I'm going back to model space, and I brought my elevations here as external references. So I'm going to click on them and then right click and open the XREF. Here are the elevations. And what I'd like to do is basically take all of these individual line segments and first of all, join them so that they become one polyline. So I'm going to type J for join and enter. And I'm simply going to window the lines here and then this one and this one. And then keep going, see if I miss anything. And I am missing a couple of lines. So I'll use an implied crossing window like that. So I've selected all of the lines that I'd like to join. I will go ahead and enter. And now when I hover over one of the lines, they all highlight because it has now become one polyline. And now what I'm going to do is take that polyline and change the properties. It's the global width that I'd like to change. Now, if I change that global width and I make it, let's say 2 inches and enter, you notice how it applies the thickness. And that's something that I think will help because now I don't need to add a new layer. I can keep all of the objects here that I have on my heavy layer. I just decided to take this ground line and just make it much heavier so it's stronger. So now I'll go ahead and save that. And then I'll go back to my presentation, elevations, and section. I'm going to reload the XREF. I'm going to zoom in, see if it picked up the changes, and it did. I'll go back to my elevations. And what I like is that I only changed the ground line, the grade line here in my south elevation, not the west. So this is going to give me an opportunity to compare what's going on here. So I'm going to type Control P again, and then I'm going to preview that. And notice, not much of a difference yet. You see that? In looking at it, I think I'm going to take the line, polyline that is, and give it a bit more width. And I'm also going to take the magenta line weight and make it a bit thinner. So I'm going to exit. And before I forget, come back over here to my plot style table, take that magenta color and just knock it down to 0.4. Save and close, and then cancel. Just wanted to get that in there. Go back to my elevations. Take this polyline, change the properties, and now the global width, I'll make that 4 inches. And that really thickens it up. I'll save that. Go back to my presentation, elevations, and section. Reload the XREF, and then print out. Control P. Still applying the correct plot style table. I'll preview. There we go. So this is what I'm looking for. It makes this a much heavier line. Even though it's magenta, I'm actually making it thicker than all the other magenta lines by turning it into a polyline. And if I compare it to the other elevation line or the grade line there, you'll see the difference. So this is something that I prefer. Go ahead and make changes the way you'd like to your drawings. It is typical in presentation elevations to really make that ground line a very heavy line to literally ground our building. I made the change there. I'll go ahead, right click and exit. And before I print, one more change. Let me cancel out of that. I have to make sure that I apply that same polyline width to my elevation. Then I'll probably do it to the section and see how that turns out. One more time, I'm going to type J for join. And I'm going to join all of the lines here. That's it. Enter. They have been joined, so I'll select it, go to my properties, give that a global width of 4 inches, enter. And I'm looking at it now and I realize that, I should probably draw a line there for the street, just like I did over in my other elevation. And I can't remember if it shows up in the view or not. I'll just drop it in for now. And I'll draw a line from this point over here. I'll go ahead and match properties, MA, enter. This will be my source. And then this is going to be my destination, enter. But it's not a polyline yet. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to see if joining the line will make a difference. So I'm going to type J, enter, and I'll select my polyline, and then I'll pick this one and enter. And that worked. So I was able to join it and make it part of the polyline. I'll go ahead and save that change. Let me go ahead and make that change also to the section view now. Might as well. And it looks like I've already added a polyline thickness to it. I may have been experimenting with this before. I'll go ahead and select it. and check the properties. It was set to 2. I'm going to set it to 4. Tap the escape key. Save my drawing, Control S. Go back to my presentation, elevations and section. Reload it. I can see the difference right away. And yes, I'm glad I put in the line for the street because I can see it. And now I'll type Control P, preview that. Those are my 2 elevations, south and west. And again, reinforcing the fact that that ground line really, literally grounds my building. So I like this, looking good. The tree, the figure there, coming in a little halftone, maybe coming in light. I like the difference, for example, here, where it appears that one tree is in front of the other. And all I did was put one on a layer that's printing blue, and then put the other one on the layer that's printing halftone. That'll work. I'll go ahead and right-click, exit. Go ahead and click OK. Already has my file name and the name of the layout, which is elevations. I'll save that. Close the bookmarks. Looks good. Oh, and something I haven't done before. I'm going to move my cursor down towards the lower left-hand corner. I pause here for a minute. It tells me it's a sheet that's 17 by 11. Great. I just wanted to make sure that it was doing that. And now I'll go back to AutoCAD. And then I'll switch over to my section view. And I'm going to print this one out. So Control P. This one is still set to the monochrome plot style table. It doesn't hurt to leave it there and see what this looks like. So I'll preview that. Looks good. But since I'm able to preview here, I'll go ahead and right-click, exit. I'll try the other one, which is monochrome small scale. I know it's not small scale, but I just want to see what this looks like. I'll preview that. It's changed, but not by much, hardly noticeable. If I right-click, exit, and preview the other one, small scale elevations. Give that a preview. And this one, I'm seeing that the thickness or the line weights that represent the thickness of my walls and my ceiling and my roof, not having the same punch to it that I wanted to have. At least I checked all of them. And that's something I'm doing this because I want you to do the same thing. So I'll right-click, exit. Because I really didn't see much of a difference, I'll leave it with the monochrome setting that I had before. And then I'll preview that. I'm seeing a line up here, and I'm not sure what that line is doing. I'm going to right-click, exit, because I need to investigate that. And then let me go ahead and just, first of all, apply to layout, and then cancel out. So I'm curious why there's a line here. So let me go back to model space. That line is part of the external reference. And that's the line that I drew when I was trying to identify where the section cut was going to happen. What can I do right now to fix it? I can come over here in the Home tab, Layers panel, and click on this icon where it says Freeze. I'll click Freeze, and I'll click on this line. And what that did, let's see, I'm looking at it, and it says freezing my elevations and section O2 medium. And I realized that I also have some more information on it. That's not going to do it. So let me go ahead and undo and tap the escape key. I'll go back to my elevations and sections. I didn't realize that I had placed it there. Maybe now's a good time to go ahead and move the line and the XREF. Enter, and just move them up out of the way from that view. That should be enough. And by the way, my section, I realized later when I was thinking about my drawing that I didn't represent the roof the right way. Even though I'm in the process of printing out final drawings, I'm noticing some things that I have to fix. This is typical in architectural drawings. It'll happen. Keep that in mind. I made that change. I'll go ahead and save. Come back to my presentation, elevations and section, reload it, and it's been moved out of the way. Go back to my section, no longer visible. And I'm realizing now I could have also taken this viewport and brought it straight down. And that would have taken it out of view. I'm just thinking of all the different ways I could have fixed this. And now, as I look at the building section, it's actually really low to the ground there. So what I'm going to do is move the viewport. So I'll type M, enter, select the viewport, enter, and take it up somewhere around the middle and then just a bit higher like that. And then I'll type Control P, preview my drawing. Looks good. I think everything is set now. So I'll go ahead and right click and plot. File name is all set. I'll click save. And this is the drawing. This is my presentation section. Here is my drawing that shows the two elevations. This one has the site plan. And this one has the floor plan. Taking the 4 drawings now, collecting them in our minds gives us a good sense of what this building is all about. I see it in plan view here. I see where it sits on the site. I go to my elevations. I get a good sense of the height of the building here, as well as the width and the length. And then the section lets me see into the building. Those are the 4 drawings printed, and I use different plot style tables to achieve my results.